Lesson 5. Welcome. Now, it might bother you, but I remind you again, if you did not do a writing assignment from last lesson, lesson 4, you need to pause the video and do the lesson, sleep in it, and come back. You remember from my previous lessons, I mentioned that whenever you do some sort of thinking activity that requires memorization or it requires your brain to process information, you need the night of, and that's a scientifically researched and proven theory that your brain needs time, and the best way for your brain to memorize and process something is to sleep in it, right? So let's now, I want to jump into meditation and our writing assignment. And if you been doing exercises and meditations, you should start seeing better concentration now. And also remember that during the day you can practice concentration, meditate, on breathing. Just for example, as I call them, micro meditations. I think I mentioned them before. uh, you're sitting on the bench, right? And during your lunch hour or whatever, right? And just take a moment without closing your eyes even. Just breathe through your nose. And what does it feel like? Like, are you sitting, like, let's say right now, even before we start meditating, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you feel present? That's a tricky question, right? In a way, it's a complicated question. Do you feel like you're in the now? Are you really here? Is your mind really here? So, we can talk about it for hours and hours. We can read thousands of books on the topic, but instead, let's try something. So here we are. Before we start meditating, I want to teach you a little bit how to ground yourself, right? So, for example, in actors have a tool before they go on stage, and if they feel sort of like out of it, right? So they breathe in and breathe out, and they say now, right? They say now, right, with the exhale, now, right? So you can try this, or you can, when we talk about mindfulness specifically, here's a simple exercise for mindfulness. And it's the same thing with, if in life, if you feel, let's say, if you're stressed and you sort of feel like, you have this out of body experience where you're completely out of it, right, for the lack of a better word. So let's do the following. Again, close your eyes for a moment. Uh, what do you hear right now? Do you hear anything? How does your feet feel? Are they on the floor? Are you wearing shoes? Is there anything in your body that is aching or feels uncomfortable? Just try to relax that spot. How does your spine feel? Are you keeping it straight? If not, please straighten it. How are your shoulders? Are they tense? Try to relax them. Do you smell anything? So as you become more aware of things around you, right? So it's sort of like you start feeling more present, right? So you can continue this exercise, when you're walking, let's say in the forest, for example, and you can try to, there's actually, it's psychologically proven. I also, exercise, but for example, if you in the forest, right? I'm giving you forest as an example. I'm not obsessed with forests, but and you want to remember a particular tree. You look at the tree, you smell the tree, but you can touch the bark of the tree or ground next to the tree. The sensory experience, it brings you into reality, right? So that's why when you walk in the in the forest or hiking, don't listen to music or take it all in. If you're walking next to ocean, listen to the waves. Just take it all in. Just be there. It will make the whole experience much more pleasant and it will stay in your memory. So here's what we're gonna do. We are going to meditate for 14 minutes and then we're gonna do our writing assignment. So please close your eyes. Again, reminders, pen, piece of paper, earplugs if needed, eye drops if your eyes hurt. Pause the video, put eye drops in. Your eyes will be so much more grateful to you when you're done meditation. They'll actually rest. Spine straight, remember, must. This is a must. Everything else is, negotiable. This is a must because otherwise your breathing will be completely off. You breathe in through your nostrils. You're not forcing it. By now you should probably figure that out already. You know how to do it in your case. All right. Now I'm gonna start the timer and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so let's slowly come back. You can keep your eyes closed for a second. Just, take your time, no rush. We're not in a rush. So, in the next couple of lessons, I'll start reading for you some Zen stories. And the reason for Zen stories or any other stories, right? A long time ago, um, I was just beginning my training, not just in meditation, but for lack of a better word, in wisdom in general. And I asked one instructor or teacher, whatever you want to call him, why do Zen masters, or if you read in religious texts or anything else, why do they always tell stories? Why don't they just tell you, for the lack of a moral of the story? And he told me that when someone is, for example, in meditation, someone has achieved a high level of mindfulness or presence or enlightenment, right? It doesn't matter. Let's not attach to labels. As you remember, let's not label. It's very hard for this person to explain to you how they feel or even how they got there in a way, because once they're there, it's not immediately apparent to them how they got. They know they're there, but they don't know how they got there necessarily. So what they do is they tell you stories trying to get you in the same state of mind that led them there. Because in reality, when you achieve mindfulness, you don't really know how you got there. You just know you're there. And also, if you start thinking too much about it, you're gonna lose it. It's when in acting, if you ever took acting classes in college or whatever, they tell you that the second you realize you're acting, you're no longer acting, you're out of it, right? So you became too self-aware. So they tell you stories to get you there. Okay, so I'll start telling you some stories in the next couple of lessons, because as you meditate, I want you to start feeling and seeing where where is it that we're going, right? Towards what? Okay, so let's move on. Now, that's a big one. Writing assignments, fear risks. So risks are very complicating because risks sound scary in themselves, but there's two sides to every coin, right? So on the other hand, if you don't take risks, things don't really happen for you. Like I always tell people in business and in life in general, if everything you try always happens for you, it means you're just not trying, you're not aiming high enough. When you're aiming high enough, there'll be some certain percent of, unsuccessful attempts. Let's not use the word failed. Let's say unsuccessful attempts. Okay? And you can use the attempts to learn from them, right? Because if something didn't go your way, and I'm gonna have another course on projects and management and risks, and but the point being is that number one, and because I want to stay within meditation for this one, number one, if you don't, if you never have unsuccessful attempts, means you're not aiming high enough. So if you meditate for 2 minutes and you're always succeeding, it means you need to increase your time, because you need to get to the point where your mind starts being challenged and your mind, monkey mind starts going crazy. So you need to increase your time. So you challenge your mind and challenge your concentration practice, right? Number two is it's not necessarily about meditation, but there's such thing as survivor bias or survivorship bias. You might have heard about it. And basically, during World War II, British Air Force, or in the Royal Air Force, wanted to see how to reinforce their bombers, to make them more survivable. And so what they did was, when the bombers, the planes would come back, they would see where they were hit by bullets, and they would reinforce. They put more armor in those spots. Do you see any problem with this? Well, of course, because the planes that came back, that's not the issue. You want to know about the planes that did not come back and what happened to them, where did they get hit, right? So basically, survivor bias is you bias because you only base your assumptions or ideas or hypotheses based on what you see. So, for example, Facebook, you see, or I mean, Amazon's my favorite company, but Amazon, if you see Jeff Bezos and they tell you this is what Jeff Bezos did and this is what helped him to succeed and etc. blah blah blah. How much of that is luck? Because for every one Jeff Bezos that did this very thing, there are hundreds and thousands of people that they did exactly the same thing, did not succeed. So the point being is that you've got to take risks. And remember, you cannot eliminate the risk, you can only reduce it. So the thinking aspect of it, and I'm going to teach you about thinking in a different course, but the thinking aspect is how can you not eliminate the risks, because that is impossible, but how can you manage them? And by manage, meaning reduce the damage if risks hit you, right? So there's two aspects for it, right? So just remember that that's very good to apply to your life in general, apply that in business and personal life, etc. But remember, if you want to rewind, listen to what I just said and listen again, write it down as reminders to yourself and think about those concepts that I just mentioned, right? So but for this exercise, let me read to you what you need to do. Write about 3 past experiences in which you took a risk and ended up feeling sorry you took the risk. The only rule he requires that in these situations or events you ended up saying, I wish I hadn't done that. Again, as I mentioned before, don't look for recent experiences. Go to more towards your childhood because that's probably more root of your fears, where you find the root of your fears. Now, be honest again, and we're gonna talk about risks in different course, but let's now concentrate on this because, as you remember, part of you doing writing exercises is to evaluate those fears and really think them through. Okay, because if they still bother you, you need to write them out, you need to analyze them, you need to understand what effect they have on you right now, because they're still holding on, some of them holding on to you. So, and if you ever took martial arts or self-defense course, with a good instructor, and they teach you about grappling or wrestling, and they explain to you that if someone is holding on to you, it's the same thing as you holding on to them, right? Because if they're holding with one hand, this is the hand they cannot use. So it's the same thing. If you're holding on to certain fears and memories, or other memories that produce fears, to be more exact, they're holding on to you and they're dragging you down. You might not know it. You might not realize it on a conscious level, but they're holding on to you. And that is why we're going through this exercise, and that is why it's so crucial to you. Because with every assignment, in certain aspects you'll start feeling lighter, because you'll understand, oh, I get it, that's happened to me in childhood or whatever. I get it, why it's I mean, it doesn't mean it goes away necessarily, but once you understand it, your brain brings up fears because it's trying to protect you. Okay, so if the fear is not necessarily justified, or if it's justified but you can reduce it now, the risk of it or something happening, the sphere is no longer real for you, right? Remember, fear in the end is not real. Fear is something you're scared of that's going to happen in the future. Presently, you only have you, your body, your mind, your breathing, and you got to do the thing you got to do. And the more you think about the future and how bad it can go, the worse it's going to get for you. When you watch Olympics, you see world-class champions doing silly mistakes on ice or whatever, right? And you think to yourself, how could they practice all this? Because now they're in the stress of the Olympics. And now their mind goes, oh my God, if I do this and I fail, and the whole world is going to see it. And They're gonna see my, hashtag epic fail, and and this messes with you. Okay, this messes with you. So do not undercut yourself. Do not handicap yourself when you do things, right? So there's plenty of challenges in life, and we go through these exercises to make sure you do not challenge yourself more than needed, in the sense unnecessary challenges, right? You do not weigh yourself down. That's why I keep on repeating, the exercises are crucial to clear your mind so you can meditate better. So set your timer for 15 minutes. All rules applies as before to the in writing. Be honest, and thank you very much. I'll see you in the next lesson. Be well.